hit the system for whatever project you want to run. Keep in mind, you got to do it 4 times. Okay, and if you're on the 32-bit, same thing now, 32-bit, you got to do it 4 times, right? You got to make all the updates for whatever you need. Let me just show you. Go into whichever one you're working on, hit System. Where it says finish-zips.bat, this is like the last thing being run by the process. In other words, 1-run.bat runs a lot of pieces along the way. And the last piece it runs before it stops and the new one takes over is this, finish zips, right? Finish the zips, finish zips.bat. Right click it and either hit edit or open with Notepad if you have that option. You should have one of those 2 options. You could edit with Notepad++, okay, if you have it. Let's hit edit, and you'll find it. Here's where it is. How do you recognize it? This says sleep for 150 seconds before running the next program line, which is that wzzip.exe that we had to worry about the path for. Make sure our path was correct. Okay, and when it runs, it's going to run that line. It's going to say zip, use the zip program to zip this thing here, whatever. That's kind of the idea. So it's going to create this with everything in there. Okay, all right. So if, again, you found that one of those command prompt windows was still creating pages like for another 10 seconds, then you might want to raise this at least 10, but you probably want to go like 20 because some of your projects are going to have more keyword combinations or geo-target combinations. And so it will take slightly longer for the pages to get processed, right? So give yourself at least like a good 10-second buffer, okay? And that's how you do it. And just remember that you need to do it on everything that you're going to just save it. That you're going to run, whether it's HB Geo or no Geo, make a note to yourself if you have to, or just do them all at once. Go find finish zips.bat, edit, and just change the number to whatever the most appropriate number is. Does it have to be a round number? No, it could be 165 or 164 or 168, whatever number you want. On the contrary, what happens if your projects are getting run out really, really fast and then you're waiting for like 30 seconds before they start? Well, you can drop it. So if it was 150 and you were waiting for like 30 seconds, you can drop it 30 seconds. But again, just to make sure you don't trip over yourself later, just drop it like 20 seconds, okay? But you can do that. You can make it 130. Or you could even make it to be on the safe side 135, but you can do it. You can dial this in to whatever's working best for you so you can make it move faster if you want. Now keep in mind, it's just seconds. Seconds. 150 to 135, that's 15 seconds. If I was going to go downstairs and make myself some coffee and come back up, there's your difference of mini seconds, like 30 anyway, if not a minute. So what difference does it really make? It's not that big a difference, but I've got it set to 150 now. I think on the 32-bit, it might be set higher. We can take a look. Just because 32-bit, is 32-bit. Let me just see. I knew that I set this stuff up pretty high. Now, 150 I made sure was pretty sensible for this whole run the way it is. Okay. Now, let me come back to another piece of the puzzle for speeding things up. All right, because there's a second thing you can do to speed things up. And I'm just going over these settings before we actually do a full-scale run, because it's good to have this in mind. Then we can concentrate on the run itself, right? There's one more setting. That's this. Again, go into any one of these. And here's what it is. If you go into System, say you want the pages to start producing, they get produced in parallel. Basically, 5 runs happen next to each other at the same time. Okay, that's why you see so many command prompt windows. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're each going to produce their version. There's the 1-bat, 2-bat, 3-bat, 4-bat, 5-bat, and then the 32-bit versions. They're each going to be programmed to run at the same time, except with an offset. In other words, this, and you don't need to know this, just keep it in mind. This is going to run 2 of the profiles out. Okay, and then it's going to exit. So first it's going to run one all the way out. When it's done, it'll start the second one. Now, for most people, it only takes like 20 seconds to get this one done. All right, for whatever size run you want to do. If you do a really big run, of course, it's going to be a larger number of seconds involved. But for the set points that we have, it'll take like 20 seconds, okay? Then it'll do this one for another 20 seconds. Well, if you had all 10 of these coming after each other, that would be 200 seconds. We thought it'd be a lot faster if we split up the work and have them run in parallel. So while this is working on 2, this is a counterpart, right? The 32 bits go together, and then the regular 64 bits go together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are counterparts, and they run next to each other. But notice how this says sleep for 30 seconds before starting. That's important. That gives the first one a jump start to get some ground covered before the next one kicks in too. Okay? Because then it'll be like just 10 seconds left on that one before this one starts up. All right? And then, so they'll start at the same time according to our process, but there is still a stagger interval, a sleep interval in there. The next one, what do you think it says? It says sleep for 60 seconds, which is double the 30, right? Because it's going to wait its turn before it begins to allow the other ones behind it to get some ground cover. The first one should be done by now, and this should be most of the way done by now before this one even really starts, okay? And then it continues on that way. 60, then we have 90, and then we have 120. 120. That way, our system can hit all 5 of these at the same time, but they still take turns. Now, that is a good staggering point for guys with like 4 gig of RAM. If your computer has, I'll look at my properties on mine. If your computer has 4 gig of installed memory, 4 gig of RAM, then those set points are quite stable. They look stable. I've been on a bunch of computers and 4 gig of RAM, that's good. But what about guys like who have like 8 gig of RAM or 12 gig of RAM? I have 12. A lot of you out there have 8 or 12. Okay? So then the question is, how much faster can you go? Do you need this to wait for a whole 30 seconds and that to wait for 60, that to wait for 90? Heck no. If you have at least 8 gig of RAM, and certainly if you have 12, all right, you can make those things start like a second apart from each other. This starts immediately. This starts a second later. That starts a second later. That starts a second later. That starts a second later. They'll be done really, really fast, right? That's the point. How do you adjust it? Well, I'll show you. Let's get back from the top so you recognize where we are. I can choose any of these. Again, they all operate independently, so whatever changes you want to make, just keep in mind you want to change them all. And again, search and replace, that's for being able to make lots of these changes at once. And that's why I often tell people use an odd number. Like for instance, on our finished zip.bat, if I edit it, I don't need to go with an even number like 150, although I happen to know that 150, I never used it anywhere else in the entire program breakdown other than, me being funny, other than for the zipping. So I could change all of my 150s up really fast on this whole stack. For me, it might be this HB stack. For you, it might be the HB32 stack. But if you want to also get the backups, be careful about that because then you really should get the whole folder so it notices everything anyway, right? Or just do 2 folders at a time. Or I'm sorry, 1 folder each. But whatever, it's so fast, who cares? Let's just do the whole thing at once. So here's the idea, copy. And I could say, go there, okay, all the subdirectories, all the files, everywhere where it said sleep 150, maybe I want to make it say like sleep 165, right? Replace. Now that's for the zip files. You do not want to set that down to 1 or 2, or it will miss many, many files. Now I know that's perfect because 165 is also a unique number. It's not used for any other purpose, okay? So that's good. That's for the zip files. But let's get back to the other part of it, which is how much delay time before each of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 batch files start up. Let me show you. They're all the same. Let's go in there, hit system again. We're going to a different place now. We're going to MOWG Autorun.vbs. And on the MOWG Autorun, there's only one. And if you right click it, you can edit that or open with Notepad or edit in Notepad++. Okay. And be careful when you edit in Notepad++ because it gives you all this extra stuff that might confuse you and might not. You know, it just depends on whether you know how to run it. So usually I just like to open it with regular Notepad so I don't see all that stuff because it's just how I have my settings. You can change settings in Notepad++ for what you want to see. All right, here's what I'm going to do though. I am going to say this. See the sleep time variable equals 30? Aha, that's it. So when it does the run, it creates those files and it's going to create them really, really fast. And it's going to put the sleep times in that are based on that original number. Sleep time variable 30. That means the first one will have no sleep time because it can start right away when it's called for. The second one will sleep for 30. The third one will sleep for twice that, or 60. The fourth one for 90. You see, they stagger. If I want to get really fast, because I have a fast computer, 8 gig of RAM, I could go down to like 2. If I have 12 gig of RAM on a 64-bit, you should be able to go down to 1. Okay? And be careful, 8 gig of RAM on a 32-bit computer, I really don't know if you want to go 1 or 2. You can always try. I mean, it's a lot of RAM, so it should work. It should work. But you could do something like 15. And again, these don't have to be round numbers. It could be anything. If you did 14, okay, we'll save it. Then what's it going to do? That'll start right away. That starts after 14 seconds, after 28 seconds, 42 seconds, and so on, right? 56 seconds. I remember. And these 32 bits follow the same suit. They have the exact same staggers, right? Sleep 60 on number 3. You know, sleep 90 on the number 4 32-bit, okay? They follow the same suit, okay? But that's how you can adjust to speed things up. So you can tweak your speed. This is kind of like overclocking the process. So you can overclock it, dial it in to get this thing, not the menu generator, sorry, the MOWG Autorun.vbs. You'll recognize it. If you open the menu generator, you won't see anything about a sleep time variable. You'll see other things, but you won't see that. So close it. Just open MOWG Autorun.vbs. There's your sleep time variable. And you can try to clock that puppy up. In my case, I normally do 1 because I've got a fast computer, right? So I can go with 1. That's just quicker. And if you can do all the runs faster that way, like watch what happens now when I start it. It's going to clear out the old stuff and then start the new stuff. And watch it start to move now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and they're all running at the same time. So they're going to finish the first 5 here in like, 15, 20 seconds, whatever it was. Then, boom, there, it's starting the second ones now. 3, 4, and 5. There we go. Now it's starting the other process, the finish zips.bat, right? Again, I need to make sure that these all close before this starts, and it's waiting for 165 seconds, right? 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. In other words, I can figure out how much tighter to make this by counting those seconds right now. 10, 1,000, 11, 1,000, 12, 1,000, 13. Say I get all the way to 65. Then I could drop the number down to 100, but on the safe side, I'd make it 110. You see how that works? I can even stop this now before it zips and continues. And by stopping it, I can just start all over again whenever I'm ready. And again, how long did it really take to do? Let me do it again. Okay, I'm gonna start counting as soon as those pages appear. That's the right time. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, say. So I can make this like 50, and I'd be certainly safe with a number like that unless I raise the file count up, the file count really high. By the way, what does that mean, the file count? Let me show you. If you hit System, okay, here's another one just nice to know. How big a run do you want to do, or how small a run do you want to do? You can go as big or small as you want with 10 keywords, and that's what the run's going to use. It's going to use 10 keywords minimum. You can do more. You can do 50. You can do 100. You can do more if you want. And it'll take a lot longer for it to get the work done. You'll have to set that sleep interval for the zip file up quite a ways. because it's going to have to produce a lot of pages first. But with just 10, I could have it produce just 10 pages. It'll actually produce 70 because it has to make a lot of supporting files, but I can set it for 10 or 20 or 100 or 200, and it'll do 10 groups of that. Remember, it's going to do 10 different projects anyway. You need a minimum of 10 keywords. If you use 50, don't worry, it will still only just do 10, but it'll put the pages throughout those 10 folders it's going to create, right? How many pages did you want though per folder? That's what I mean. See this zzAutoCreate.pfl? It's called that on the geo side of the house. It's called zzAutoCreate.pfl. If you're in the no geo section, it's called something a little different. Just keep it in mind, system. zzNoGeoAuto.pfl. Okay, that's the same thing, but for the no geo. Now, what about the subs? Let's just verify. System. Yep, ZZ Auto Create for the Geo version and ZZ No Geo Auto is what it's going to be for this one. And again, 32-bit, that's the same thing. If I go in here and look, it's going to be the same thing. ZZ Auto Create and so on. Okay, so let me get back. Now, how do you change the file count? That's important. If you say either for yourself or if you're doing work for someone else, you want to be able to tell them, I'll create 100 pages for you, or I'll create 1,000 pages for you. Or if you're doing a big run, maybe with a lot of keywords, I'll create, whatever, 5,000 pages for you. Then you want to say, I'm creating 5,000 pages means at 10 project folders, because that's how it works. You want to set for 500 pages per folder. Okay, that's how that works. So here, how do you do it? You go to your PFL, the right one, right click it. Again, open with Notepad's the best choice because this is quick and easy. Open with Notepad. All right, that way you don't screw anything up or anything. And you don't get confused over it. See the file count? That's what this says. It says file count. It opens the file count and closes the file count. That is it, the file count. If I want 2,000 pages, I need to type in 200 because it's going to do 10 versions of it. That's 200 times 10 is 2,000. So if I tell a guy I'm going to put 4,000 pages on his website, this needs to be 400. If I just want to put 100 pages on a guy's website, yes, I can go as low as 10. Okay? So whatever you want, is the minimum's going to be 10 anyway. Okay? But if you just want to put 200 pages up, you could say 20, and you really could. By the way, this number should end with a 0. It's the way our system's running. So make it 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. Even if you wanted to do something bizarre, which I would never recommend, and create 24,000 pages on a website all at once, that's not a good idea at all. Don't do it. Okay? But you could. Just have it end in a 0. And I wouldn't do it. We've had guys do it. That's how you get yourself sandboxed. Too much, too fast. All right. And people say, what about spamming keywords? The answer is if you don't use a lot of keywords, knock this thing down. If you're only going to use 10 keywords, heck, set it to 10. Just do 10 pages per keyword is what's going to wind up being with this automation. Otherwise, set it to 10, so it's going to do 100, but include 100 keywords in your run. And I'm just pointing at this, but this is not the file you adjust. And I'll show you how to do it soon with the form. That'll be the easiest way. So just change this to whatever you wanted the number to be. I'll leave it on the default of 200 right now, but you can change it to whatever number you want. Okay, so just right click it again. Go to whichever one it is, like NoGeo, System, right click, open with Notepad, change that number to whatever you want, 50. How's that? And then just close it back. Okay, that way when I come up here and I go to do the run, it's just going to do 50 pages times 10. Guess what? That's going to be quicker too, right? So where did I have, and by now I'm putting it all together for you, where did I have that MOWG Autorun set? Let's edit. Now if we're just doing 50, it's only going to take like 20, 10? 10 at the most between runs. And heck, I don't even need to worry about it because I got a fast computer. but you might just set this thing to like 5 or 10, maybe 8. Yes, you can do that. So that's okay. It's just whatever you want it to be. All right. And me, like I said, I'm going to make mine 1 because I like making it 1. It's quicker. Now that means it's going to be done fast, won't it? Let me come up. Let me hit run. Again, I've got all the dummy data in the file. This is the var sheet. This is where all the data will go. And you don't get it there by editing it. We used to have to edit this manually by opening it and pasting in what we wanted to go in each of these. Now we don't need to do it because of this step 1 form, or I'm sorry, step 2, when you get there, form that we have that lets us put the information in here. Okay, I'll show you later. Right now I'm just making the point. If I run this now, what do you think it's going to do? It'll clear out the old run. Then it'll start pounding on the new one. And let's just see how many seconds it takes for it. Oh, it's starting to cycle through almost as it's closing, isn't it? So it's going to be done in just seconds. And again, heck, it even got done before this reached the point where it's going to be waiting for the WinZips. It hasn't even gotten there yet. All right, so now it's going to start the finish zips and do some processing before. And now, sleep 165. Heck, I don't even need 165. I could have it sleep for 0. By the way, how do you just comment it out? Okay, for those of you who say, how do you make it not sleep? Here's a simple way. Right-click Finish Zips, edit it, and see where it says sleep 165? You could just comment it out like that. Okay, just remember, if you do that, later, if you're going to be using search and replace to change everything, and you forgot that you had one line different than the rest, okay, then you can get mixed and matched. So you have to go back and make them all uniform again if you want to be able to use this uniformly. Of course, you could run it on separate cases back to back. Do one kind of a replacement, then do another kind of a replacement to get everything. You could do 4 or 5, 6 kinds of replacements back to back on the same folder structure, with all the subfolders and files if you want. But just keep it in mind, because another way to go is just simply to drop it down. Now be careful. What if I make it sleep 1? All right, well, here's a problem. There's another sleep 1 in here, and there are other sleep 1s in different places. Well, that's not a good idea, because now if I go to use this thing, and I want to change it from sleep 1 to 165, what do you think it's going to change? Everything that said sleep 1 to sleep 165. So keep that some number that's not really in use, maybe like a 4 maybe. And again, you have to kind of go back and double check the numbers because you're going to adjust them as you go anyway. And so just be mindful of it. Okay, that's the point. Just be mindful of it. All right, that covers that. Now, most of the stuff, you don't really mess with most of it. FTP uploader, you're not going to touch it. FTP uploader files with main page bat, you're not going to touch it. That kind of thing. The most you could bother to do is right-click anything marked .bat and see if it has a sleep number. Yeah, there's a sleep 1, a sleep 2. So far, I do not see a sleep 4. That could be open, right? Do you want to sort by type? You can do that real fast. Watch that. Here's what it does. It puts all the VB scripts together, and it puts all the batch files together, so I know I'm getting to all of them at once. Okay, so I can check every single one of them, right-click at it, right-click at it, right-click at it, right-click at it, and see all the information that's in here all at once. Just don't forget that up here there's one. Okay, so you could edit that one. That's the whole big run one that it's doing that you see it mainly doing anyway. And then up in here, there's another one. There's a VBS up in here, right? And so it's got its own rules for its own things that it does. Okay. Mostly you don't want to adjust the coding unless you know what you're doing. All right. So there's that really. Now that covers all the main set points for throttling, for hyper driving, for overclocking, for making things extremely fast or as slow as necessary for your computer, whether you're using the HB or the HB32, you can still do as much overclocking as possible. Just keep in some buffer room before the zipping. Again, keep that in mind. If I change my file count from 50 to 200, it takes like 4 times as long to process all those files. But if they're running in parallel, it's just 4 times as long per window, right? Instead of like 4 times the whole process. Okay, per little command prompt window that pops up, just think about how long it takes for one of those to cycle because they're running next to each other. and just keep that in mind. Again, real fast, just to point it out, because I know by now it's going to just ingrain itself. No geo, okay? If I want to clock it, overclock it, underclock it, whatever, system, two places to go for that. The first one is MOWG Autorun.vbs edit, and that says how long before each of those command prompt windows open to do its part, okay? Bam. Then finally, because of how and the number of pages it's going to do is based on this ZZ No Geo Auto. If you're wondering why it's up here now, it's because I hit type, right? Let me hit name to reorder by name. Then it'll be where it was before. And you can open that with Notepad to change your file count, 50 to 200, say. Okay. I'm a firm believer in repetition the first few times around. All right. Now, and finally, finish dash zip stop bat. These are like the only things you'll ever edit, really, directly. And that's where you change how long it takes before the zipping begins total, right? It's not 150 seconds from the beginning. It's 150 from the point where everything else left off, and whatever's still running, you still need a little more time before the zipping starts. And like I say, just remember, think plus 10. Always with this thing, plus 10. Okay? That's a good idea. All right. Just remember that file count, if you edit the profiles and you're looking at the file count, just make sure that whatever number you feel like using ends with a 0. Okay? That's just really, really wise. Okay? That'll help you a lot. That way, something else that needs to happen later doesn't like crash. Okay? It should end with a 0. File count. Okay. Now that I've said that all of that, we're going to go ahead and actually start just doing some runs real quick and talking about those pieces, how it works. All right, so I'm going to break off here. I think this has been long enough. Go ahead, refresh the old coffee, take a break, walk around, let it seep in, whatever you want to do. And then we'll come back and actually do a run. We'll do it first on the tester website, then talk about putting it on your own website. And then you'll be free. You'll be able to take off and roll with this thing. All right.